Yep, she just did. All right, I am recording. Yes, good call. It's funny because when Jerica didn't do it, she was like, I'm going to record. And I think you mentioned, hey, are you recording? Cool. So I'm in instructor examples, right? So I'm navigating to student folder, and we're going to make a directory, mkdir, and I'm going to say dom intro. I'll just set everything up. Boop. Right? Do an ls. See the folder. I'm going to change directories into dom underscore intro. ls, nothing's there. Just touch app.js to create. Touch index.html to create. And I already have them open here. So I don't need to do atom dots because they already kind of open right there. So the one thing that I'll just do to test that things are working, well, app.js, they want us to put a console log here into app.js just to make sure that it's working, I guess. You know, stranger things are coming. Right, so I'll just put something in there, right? We're gonna fill out the rest of this also. Let me just take a look here where we're going. Welcome, India. All right. Index HTML tab. All right. Why don't we do this? Can you walk through part one and just build out that structure, and then we can walk through the rest of it together? I don't know if everyone's was doing it, but if not, let's just take a moment to catch up there. I'll put here, click on. There's icon. All right. I'm going to let you someone put the first emoji. This is a free-for-all today. It's an emoji free-for-all. I will not dictate my emojis upon you because I realize no one's going to click on them anyway.
Joe, you sound a little hurt there, man.
What's that?
I said, you sound a little hurt there.
I'm just, you know, I'm feeling the love, but I'm all game, man. I'm flexible. I'm flexible.
Joe, can I just hold up my emoji?
Oh, my God. That's happy. That guy's happy. I'd be super happy all day if I was looking
happy
at that.
winky face.
Yeah,
it's where it's at.
That's awesome.
Hey, what gets you to the day, man? I got, just to keep, you know, a sense of calm and ease, I got a little candle burning here with some, giving me some, like, nice smells and serenity, peace of mind. Maybe that's the emoji I'm going to find, a candle emoji.
Nice.
If they have a candle emoji. Candle.
Or do a custom one.
There you go, because they don't have one. They have oh, they do. Here we go. There's, boom. There's my candle. That's what I'm going to use. See? Josh, you got me thinking. My brain was kicking off there. And we're just creating the files. We'll walk through the rest of the code. I haven't done anything else as of yet. I also was able to, I downloaded the tool. Now I can draw. I'm looking forward to drawing today. I got my little Apple Pen, crazy, stupid, expensive Apple Pen.
It's a write-off, right? Or
yeah, I mean, it is a write-off, but it still comes out of my pocket. It still hurts, Josh, when it comes out of my pocket.
Yeah.
So, we have a few more people still left to do it.
Oh,
I see 20. We had like 25, right? There we go. Not that I'm pushing you along. Just I always get people don't click on it, and then I'm like twiddling my thumbs. Sweet. Cool. So we have that. In app.js, I just added the console log. It's really all I added, and we'll test that out later. It's not. We won't see the effects now unless we were to, you know, run node app.js. Then we should. Oh, I didn't see it. Maybe I didn't save it. I didn't save it. See? Now if I run it, we know that it's working, right? It's kind of basic stuff. I'm going to go to the HTML file, though. Let's go to the HTML. Let's start creating some HTML boilerplate. So if you do HTML and you tab, that's all you get, right? That's all I got. Let me see if I tab. All right. I installed another tool just earlier, and this tool is called Emmet. So earlier, I think when I did HTML, right, and I hit tab, it created the HTML structure. Does it create the HTML structure for you?
Yes.
Okay. I installed this other tool called Emmet, and Emmet is a tool that allows me to do something similar like that, but it extends the functionality. So I'm just thinking maybe we install Emmet. I use it all the time when I'm teaching, particularly the evening classes, but also when I do SEI as well, locally in New York. To install the tool, all you'd have to do is go to the Atom icon, you know, the Atom in the menu bar, and just go Preferences. Okay. Let's give everyone a moment. Atom toolbar, Preferences, Packages. And if you look for this tool right here, Emmet, and install that tool, once again, I installed it so I can disable it, or we can leverage it. It's just a really cool tool to help you build out HTML. I could build out what Jerica did earlier in one line. Now it would be a long, really long ass line to like put the script tags with the links to the, you know, the actual URLs, but I could have created the whole structure, nested elements in, gone back up through this hierarchy using Emmet, and then go back in and fill in the gaps with like real content and real things. So just gonna do this. Just make sure you got Emmet installed. Click on candle. Installed. Okay. So just click on the candle. I want to make sure everyone installed it. I'm going to be doing things. If you don't have it installed or you had an issue with it, we can still get through it. Not a big deal.
Do you suggest getting these other Emmet like extensions while we're at it, or
No, I wouldn't do anything like I don't want to walk down. I think my Atom is like bare bones. I haven't done anything else with Atom. Did it ask for any additional installs while you're doing this?
No, there's just a bunch of, you know, extend Emmet's JSX.
Oh yeah, don't do anything. Just the Emmet for now. I don't want to like walk down a road where other stuff's going to be installed, and then I'm like, why did I even ask everyone to do it? Because that's what I feel like. I might walk down that road.
I can't find it, Joe.
Yeah, it's not.
Mine's not showing up either.
So if you just did an Emmet, you wouldn't see it. So
Yeah.
I'm going to uninstall it. Watch. I'm just going to
You
uninstall.
have
Maybe.
to go to install, I think.
You have to go to install.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thanks,
So if I
guys.
went to packages, right? Oh, I'm sorry. Install. That was it. My bad. I apologize. Emmet. Once again, I'm kind of new to the Atom. I went straight to packages because in Sublime it is packages, and then it shows you your installed packages and your other packages. So I apologize. So yeah, I'm just installing the Emmet tool. That's it. No wonder why I was like, why is no one? Okay. Mine looks like it's installed, and if I go to packages, I will see Emmet installed. There we go. Now the numbers are going up.
Now, why did we install this? You were saying it adds functionality. What does it do exactly?
Oh, I'm gonna show you exactly what it would have done. Okay.
Yeah, this is part of like the open source thing that's cool about Atom. People make cool tools for Atom, and then people can download them, and all these little packages do their own kind of like separate tasks, make things easier for people.
Yep. And they don't just make it for Atom, like Emmet's in a CodePen, Emmet is in Sublime, like whoever built out the tools, just make sure that they code them for these other languages. And, you know, it gives this developer, whoever this particular developer is, right? Is it's Emilio, is that a person, is that a company? It gives them recognition. Now people are dependent on their app, right? and maybe they can sell them an upgrade. Remember, you sell 1 million people a $10 upgrade, and you made $10 million. You know, so if you can give them something free and then they upgrade, even better.
There's also like an auto indentation, like so you don't have to indent your stuff. I've downloaded that, so it literally just press like 3 buttons and everything indents exactly where it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I'm gonna figure out all the tools to install for Atom. Get those all configured. So we only have 11.12. That is, anyone having problems with it? I don't know, maybe it's just taking some time to install. I'm not sure. Once it's installed, you could disable, uninstall, or go to settings. I'm just going to packages to confirm the installation is there. I'm going to just get out of my settings. I'm going to assume it can't be taking that long to install. So I only got 16 installs. I'm going to assume, maybe people haven't clicked on the candle, but say I'm wrong, you can say I'm still doing the install. Because you can, I think, still do the install in the background as we build this out. Yeah, there we go. Numbers going up. Just want to make sure everyone's on the same page. $17, $18. Let's see. 18, 19, right? We're at 19. It's 19, huh? All right. Good. I'm going to jump in. I got 18. Let's get going. I'll put comments here on what you could do to just kind of catch up with the content. So you know how it says do the HTML and then do tab? That doesn't work as well now because I installed Emmet. So if I go back here and I do exclamation plus tab, plus tab, exclamation tab, now I have the whole structure, okay? Just one tool that changes things up just a little bit, okay? That gives me the boilerplate here. So I type an exclamation, hit a tab, I get everything, which in the end is one key, right? One key that I have to, and then I have to hit a tab. Before it was HTML tab, right? So I'm already gaining some sort of efficiencies here. So now that I have this, I have the title here, right? And in the title, I'm just going to say Hawkins. And this title is what will appear in the browser's tab. So Hawkins is what will appear if I opened up this thing. I went to copy full path, went over here and opened this up in the browser. What happened? Oh, you know what? Because these aren't comments for HTML. That's why. My brain was in JavaScript mode. See what I'm getting here? And I'm like, that's not what I want. Oh, but we get Hawkins. See how we have Hawkins up here? That's where the title's coming from. All right, so when you're working on your page, just know that this title is what the users are going to see, okay? In the body, so in the body over here, we're going to add an H1. So if I just do H1 tab, I get an H1, right? I can also do this. Watch this. This is really cool with Emmet, and I'll just put a comment here. I could do this, H1 curly braces, and then say, welcome to Hawkins. If I do this, I'm going to do this on the next line. H1 curly brace, welcome to Hawkins. Tab. It auto-populates the content for me, okay? So That's a nice benefit, especially if I'm creating long strings and I'm adding things, okay? Now I'm in the body. I had this H1, so the H1 is just going to be prominent. I have the H1 there. I am going to create a div container, and in the div container, right? So I'm going to have this container, and then I'm going to have an image with this source, and we can just copy and paste that source. I'm going to have an H2 and then a UL. So I'm going to start with the div container, watch. I'm going to give comments. I'm going to write it out, and then I'll take the container. That dot represents that this thing, if I tab, I'm just going to do this. You just watch. If I tab, it precedes it with div. So I can create a div container by just doing dot, and it knows that it's a div container. If this was anything else, if it was a section, I remember during Jerica's morning exercise, there were questions of like, hey, should we be using sections? Should we be using asides? If it was a section, then I'd have to specify it was a section, and then it won't use div anymore, right? But here, our structure says to use a div. That's what I'm going to do. And I can do this also. If I do this greater than sign, that nests something inside the container. And if I just do img, look, it nests this image inside of the div, right? So the structure that I just typed to kind of create this was this. I'm going to add a comment, and I'm just going to say, hey, container, because this tells me it's going to be a class, the dot, right? This greater than sign states there's a child. And if I do img, it's going to create that child, okay? Now we have these other elements here. I have an H2, right? So I can just say H2, and then with the curly braces, say featuring, right? Tab it, that creates it. So we're just reproducing this line. And then I have a UL with a bunch of things in it. And this is kind of where I made the decision to install Emmet at that point in time, because I couldn't do what I wanted to do with it. So here's a cool thing, is this. I want to have a UL. I want to have nested LIs. And I want to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 LIs. That's what I want to have. So I times it by 5, and I tab it, and now I have 5 LIs. I still have to populate it with the text. So if I needed to force this to be populated with the text, I couldn't do it the way that I just did it. So I'm just going to put here, if we did want to create this, it would be a UL LI times 5. And now I can create 5 LIs, and now it's just a matter of populating the content. Hawkins National Laboratory, right? What do we got here? Hawkins Police Station, Bradley's Big Guy Supermarkets. I'm going to take their word that all these things are there. General store. Wow, you only have a general store out Midwest nowadays. There's no more general stores out here. All there are big shopping malls. And then I have all of that, right? I got all my content. Everything's inside of it. So let's do this. I'm also going to add the image too. I forgot to add the image for the image tag. So I'm going to just copy that image, put the image there. Boom. I'm going to save it, and I'm just going to refresh.
Image and source.
Oh yeah, put it in the wrong place. Alt, and we should have something in Alt as well. We can just say maybe Stranger Things, right? So I can say, hey, this is what the placeholder is if the image is not there, and then boom. That's kind of what it should look like, right? Picture is kind of stimulating. This is a really nice picture. This stuff is not all that enticing, correct? So why don't we do this? Why don't we stop there and have you catch up to the UL, and then we'll walk through the rest of it, okay? All you're going to do is get up to the UL. And I have the commands there. So if you want to test out the Emmet, you can work with these commands to do the Emmet, okay?
Do you mind posting the URL to the today's lesson in Slack?
Oh, can I put the URL? Sure. Sorry. Oh, yeah. I forgot how Matt does it too, yeah.
Thank you.
You got it. Apologies.
Hey, Joe, can you just move over your browser so I can see the?
Oh, yeah. Right
there we
there?
go. Yep. Thank you.
Just click on little happy face there.
Two.
Would you say that most people that develop for the web use Emmet?
I would say they're going to be using a tool. I don't know if Emmet is the tool. I'd have to just do some research. It's just one of those tools I came across reading an article on, like, hey, top 10 Sublime plugins. And that was really it. So if I did a research for like top 10 Atom plugins, let me see what I would get here. Atom plugins, top 10 recommended Atom packages.
Emmet was number
Emmet is
one.
the first one. Look at this. You see that? Emmet is the first package that they suggest. Linter is another one. Atom Beautify Teletype. So I'm going to take a look into all of these.
Yeah, Beautify is the one that auto indents.
Sweet.
Can you move that over?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. I'm trying to get the LI titles.
And with the text inside the LIs isn't, as key, but getting the 5 LIs there or just getting a few of the LIs, that's what
I'm already almost done with it. Don't tell me that now.
Oh, all right. No, time. Just take your time and get it done.
And it looks like the second one, Linter, it goes through and it like debugs your code for you, kind of.
Yep. Linters are really good. We sometimes use a linter. ESLint is a linter that we use for JavaScript. Remember how I showed you the Airbnb style guide? We kind of just went through that one time. ESLint can be configured to use the Airbnb style guide, and then queries, parses through your code and then tells you, hey, this thing isn't matching Airbnb. And so you have some sort of reference point. We're almost there, 22. I think we're good. 23, all right. So let's kind of hit it again. All right. We have our basic structure here, right? We have our ULs inside the head tag. So I need to connect the app to the index. And so we need a script tag to do that, right? So I'm going to just add a script tag. So I can do this with Emmet. I can do this. Watch. SRC is script bracket SRC is equal to app.js. I'm going to tab it. I'm going to copy this. I'll tab it. And you'll see that it creates it. I'm going to paste the code here above it. Okay? So the brackets just say this element has an attribute. That attribute in this instance is source, and it's going to equal this. So when it does get created, you're going to do that. Okay. It also says here we should have added a char set, right? Char set is equal to UTF-8. It's just the character set, or UTF-8. Okay. Load the index browser, command line J. Oh, and then we would see our HTML, right? So if I save this and then I run this and I go to Command Option J, go to Elements, we should see, I'm going to move this over. We should see all of our content. Right? Everything that we've done is right here. You can examine the body. You see the body. Did I not have the script tag? I thought I had my script tag in here. Maybe I didn't save it. I'll refresh it. Head tag, script tag. Tags are there. All of our content's there. And we have everything. We should have that, right? That's what we should have.
Something's wrong with my image.
What's that?
Something is wrong with my image.
Is it just not?
It's not. It's probably the source. Like there must be something missing on it because it's.
You want to share your screen? We could just take a quick look.
Sure. You have to come off.
Oh, I have to stop sharing you. Right.
Hold on.
Yeah. So cannot get, invalid. All Stranger Things. Let me go to the source image. Let me just see in your image. Yeah, I can't see why would not get it. It looks good. All right, I'm just taking a look at mine. Yours looks just like mine. I don't see where the error. Can you go back to the message? I just want to see.
You have an extra caret next to the PNG in the source.
Oh,
right
that's
after
right,
it.
right after the PNG. Get rid of that.
And before Stranger Things also he has a greater than or less than sign.
In the Stranger Things default looks. Can you just save it and refresh it? Yeah. Let's see.
No,
Should work.
Let me just reboot it. Like for some reason, sometimes I found when you just refresh the page, it doesn't always work. No.
Okay.
Remove both of those things. Still no.
Still not working?
Uh-uh.
All right. So then do this. I'm going to slack out exactly what I have. This becomes one of those instances where just copy and paste.
URL is spelled wrong. It's londoninside.com, not london.inside.com.
Yeah, I would never. Don't try writing these out. Like, don't write out these URLs because you're just going to like fat finger it. It's just one of those things. Always copy and paste these long URLs. Anything that's of that length should be copied and pasted.
Now it's just blank.
It's spelled wrong. It's still spelled wrong.
Yeah, it's London the inside.
The inside?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Don't forget, I pasted the URL, so you can copy and paste that.
I was just going because people keep giving me tips. I think, yeah, there we go. Okay. Thank you.
Sweet. All right, let me share my screen. All right, we're back. We're back in action here. Sweet. Okay. So we can see that we have everything. So, and we also know that the console should have output Stranger Things are coming, right? So we can guarantee that the app file is connected. And if when we do add JavaScript, we know that the file is working fine. Always do these things, these small little things. Like when you add a click event handler, just put a console log to be like, hey, the thing is clicked. So you know, guaranteed that you're not going to be troubleshooting click events or the code inside of it, thinking that the code is broken when the click never executed in the first place, okay? So when it comes to the DOM, I mentioned that the DOM is this hierarchy, right? And when we're talking the hierarchy, so I'm gonna try the whole annotate stuff now. Let me see if I can do this. It's the first time. So if we're doing that, then we could see that that is kind of the parent, right? So we're going to have a parent element being, at this point in time, this is the highest level thing, right? It's the document. So when we talk about the DOM, this document object, I'm going to say model. I'm going to add a space here. Document object model. This is a virtual representation of what is inside of the HTML. And so it knows to create this structure, right? And obviously, you know, it knows that it has this child, and these children know that they have this. So there's always going to be this parent-child relationship, and that continues down, that the body is also a parent, and then the container is also a child. So there's always going to be this relationship between them. Okay, and then we also know, like in CSS, if we wanted to target these things in CSS, you could have done something like, hey, I want to do the body, and then I'm going to target a container, right? Container. Can't see the rest of it, but you could target things like that as well. So when we get to JavaScript, in JavaScript, we're going to be able to target these things using JavaScript specifically for paths, or using classes as well. I'm just going to clear everything. Clear all the drawings. Okay. So this represents our document object model, and this also is it too. So if I did this, if I went to developer tools, I'm going to get out of annotate, right? If I went to developer tools anywhere here, and I typed document, and I hit document, what's inside of this document is the same thing that's inside of elements. I go to elements, see how it starts with HTML. If I go to console, see how it starts with the doc type and then HTML language. It's the same thing. So this document object here, and it's an object because we're going to be using methods upon it, and it has properties. This document object model is that virtual representation of all the HTML that's here, right? So this thing that we just called via JavaScript is being represented here within the Elements tab, okay? Elements, like, since it's virtual, if I was to go in here to say the body, right? So let me just go back into our, go here. If I went into the HTML and said, you know what? I'm going to get rid of this image. Here's the image, and I delete it. Oh my God, I deleted the image, right? The image, if I refresh this page, the image comes back, right? Because it's loading the HTML. I did not edit this HTML. I edited the virtual representation of that HTML, okay? And I only did it here. And if you refresh the page, the default is to load all of the default code once again. Okay, so that's our DOM, and it has this structure. And so the DOM, standing for this document object model, is when we send that content, and we could see it, right? So we did see the document object model. We saw it. If we were to start leveraging some of the methods on it, right? Because we spoke about things having relationships. So here's a good example. I'm going to put this over here. If I went to the console and I did document.body, right, I'll get the body. So I'm able to actually grab the body element itself. I could do body.children. And then I'm going to get all of the children that are directly inside of the body. Okay? So we can use this relationship here, right, that it creates in this document object model. It's this virtual representation, and use it to kind of circumvent and go up and down. We can also, you know, grab the first element, which is a container. You can kind of see it being rendered underneath. Then I can say, hey, get the children, and there's more than one children, so grab that. And then grab the inner text of that element, right? It's a pretty crazy way of just like manipulating or querying information from the DOM. If it has a structure and it knows number of elements within these things, then it can allow you to kind of free reign and grab things, right? Now we can also manipulate things too. So if I was to say document.query selector, and I choose the H1, I say grab the H1. You can already see it being highlighted up here, right? The fact that I just typed it down here is no different than me going here and saying, all right, I'm going to highlight the H1, right? This is me manually highlighting the H1. And when I move my mouse off, it's no longer highlighting anything. If I go to the console, this was me highlighting it or grabbing it using the DOM. And so with this, now that we have this, we can use a method like inner text and give it new text. Welcome to the upside down. Oh, what did I do? Oh, because I have one single quote, one double quote. And now look, the title text has changed on the page, right? So we have the ability to kind of change things as we go along, okay? So I'm going to give you a chance. Type a few of these out. Get used to kind of working with the document. You want to just kind of type what I had, just kind of get your hands in there. And I'll put another emoji in here. Click on the dancing tomato. Just try changing that, querying the document.
Joe, can you switch your pages again?
Sure. I'm just going to put this over here.
I have a question, Joe.
Sure, yeah.
What's the benefit to like doing it this way versus like just going back in your index and just rewriting it? Is this just like a time saver?
So think about interacting with a page. If you're creating a to-do list, how are you going to go into your HTML and add the to-do item that somebody just typed in and clicked on submit? How can you do that? We don't ever truly edit the HTML file after it's been loaded into the browser. Like the HTML file, the CSS file, the JavaScript files, those things remain static after they've been loaded. We can't, in the end, we can use Node to, and Node is, you know, a backend server. We could use Node to edit files and append to files, so we could do that. You know, we could use Node to act as a logger. So when things happen, just grab this text file and add this new line of text, right? But when you're talking the web and somebody is now interacting with the structure that you presented them, right? And the structure being like the HTML and the CSS for styling and whatever JavaScript, now they're interacting with that. So I want to create or manipulate this virtual representation. So when they do add a to-do item, that to-do item can be visualized and seen. I can't add it to the HTML file directly, and if I did, it would require the page to be refreshed, right? Because if we go into our file now and we just start doing stuff, it's not going to update the page, right? You have to refresh your page, okay? And so we don't want to refresh the page. We're going to always be looking for, or our ultimate goal is a single page app.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Sure thing. I'm just going to take a snapshot. I'm also going to do this. I'm going to do a git status, take a look at what we got. Maybe I'll push it up, do a few commits. There we go, kind of modified the DOM. I'll just say git add. I'm going to say git add everything, git commit, and I'll just say, you know, added some structure, added structure, right? Added HTML structure. Boom. Git. Now, if I push right now, it looks like it's being rejected. Anybody know why it's being rejected?
You didn't tell it where to push to.
No.
There's like
You need to
stuff that's been changed. You have to do like a pull origin master and then.
Yeah, you're right, Jeremy. There's changes up there, right? In the master branch up there that's saying, hey, you can't push until you pull stuff. Like, if there isn't any differences between what's up there and what's on your machine, then you better deal with them here on your machine. Don't be pushing that stuff up there because, you know, Git is like, I don't know what to do with it. You know, that requires somebody to manually be like, oh, these two things conflict. They need a person to resolve these. So Git's going to be like, don't do that yet. So do a Git pull first. It'll pull any changes. And it's like, hey, there's this other thing. Maybe, was it WQ? WQ, right? Now if I do a Git push, it'll push up the changes. Okay, so just know when you see this message, just know that that message really kind of insinuates that you must pull down any changes that have been pushed before you are able to push your changes, okay? Awesome. Are we good? Looks like we're at 20, cool. Sweet. We'll get going in just another minute. We're at 21. Oh, we do have 25 today, though. I mean, even if you didn't complete, but you want me to go ahead, you can click on the tomato also. We're just doing this stuff really slowly anyway. And we're at there, right? It's because the document is ready. Right. Oh, it's telling us that this did not work. Let's grab the code, put it back upside down. Uh-oh, didn't work. Cannot set the property in text to null. Okay. Not sure why that wouldn't have worked. I mean, it did work for us. Okay. I'm going to go here to just DOM manipulation, right? So we are walking down the road right now of DOM manipulation. Okay. Doing what we just did here, we manipulated the DOM, right? If I refresh the page, this goes back to the default, right? I can still force it and say, hey, I want you to be this. And then somebody refreshes the page and it's like, whoa, but I want you to be that, right? And it's just going to keep doing this because every time you refresh, I grab the source files. Now remember, on any page, any site, I could go to the sources tab here and actually see the source index. I can see the app file. So on really small sites, this stuff will make sense. On larger sites, larger complicated sites, there's gonna be a lot more files there and a lot more things to kind of investigate and how are they connected, what's the relationship. Something like this, I mean, it's really so easy to look at and be like, I don't know, index, and it looks like there's a script tag for app. Here's the app, really easy to understand. But so we want to manipulate and start working with this content, right? So what we can do, now here's the common practice for us to manipulate the DOM. It's common to query something and then store that something inside of a variable. So I'm gonna go back to my app.js file. Okay. Just give me 1 second here.
Hey Joe.
Yeah.
So I figured out why it gives us that error in the markdown, because they're actually talking about putting that query selector into the JS file. And then it should give us that error.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Gotcha. I see. So the reason for that being, and let's test that out, that kind of slipped my mind that we were doing this, is when we do this, documents.query selector. So let me prove that, right? H1 dot inner text is equal to welcome to upside down. Okay, so here's what's going to be happening. I'm just going to move this over so we see this on one line. I'm going to save it. Now I'll go back to, did I close it? Here's my Hawkins, right? I'm going to refresh this. Now I get this error. I'm just going to move this over here. Now I get this error, right? What do you think is happening? I mean, it's saying that it can't do it to this thing called null. Why can't it do it? I'm sorry. Why can't it do it to this thing called null? Why do you think? Why do you think it thinks that it's null? Any ideas?
Well, basically, in our HTML code, what we're doing is we're calling the JS file before any of the content loads. And then because it's calling it, it doesn't actually see that the H1 or any of the tags are actually there.
Correct. So the placement inside of our HTML file has the script file here, right? JavaScript runs from, HTML runs from the top down, going through all of these things, right? And because it's going from the top down, it's like, hey, in this file, right, you're asking me to grab an H1. But you know what? We don't get to an H1 until here. I haven't gotten there yet, so you know what? There really is no H1 there yet. So that returns null, right? I don't have it there, so how can I grab something that's not there yet? So the placement of your script file is important, because if we move this down, if I took this script file, right, I'm going to copy it and just comment it out up there. If I moved it to the end, to the just above the body, which is where you're going to find some of these files at times, they're going to be down here. If we did this now and I saved it and I refresh the browser, the message goes away. Okay, the message goes away because we now have the H1. The H1 has been loaded, and so now we can grab the H1 and do what we want to do. We can do the manipulation of the H1 based on the fact that it is present now for us to work with. Okay, that makes sense? Like, it's just a matter of how JavaScript is reading this file from top down. So if this thing needs to grab DOM elements, then we actually have two different ways to do this, to kind of let it know that it's doing this. One way is to put it in an anonymous, if I went in here, I don't really like doing this, but if I put this into an anonymous function and then kind of called the anonymous function. I think if I did this, let me just see if this works. If I did this and I put it in here and I call the anonymous function, no, that's not gonna work. There's another keyword that we can use for like loading up the document and like listening to the document. But for now, just know, or I would suggest that you put the script tag towards the bottom. That's kind of where I would put it, okay? Knowing that these things will load and it gives them time to load. There's another advantage to putting script tags towards the bottom also. If the script tag is towards the top and it's doing a lot of things and it's pulling a lot of things, then your browser, it needs to wait for certain things to happen, which means these DOM elements themselves, these things aren't loading yet because the script tag is still running and doing its thing. So for the sake of performance, and performance is key, right? Your website and its performance is key. That affects a lot of things. Things like SEO, user experience. If there's delays there, sometimes the users aren't going to like it, and they're going to be upset that there was this delay having to wait for this thing to load, okay? So putting it towards the bottom is always a good, safe bet. Can't go wrong with putting it towards the bottom, okay? Thanks for pointing that out, Kristen. So I'm going to go back to the app.js file, right? And so now we know that we can grab things, right? And now that I have the image, right, did I not? This one, this was it. I'm going to say const image is equal to document dot query selector image, right? Okay. I'm going to console log that. Console. Let's see what we got. Let's go back here. Refresh the page. I can do Command R also, and that'll refresh the page. And now I see that I have the image. This DOM element represents the image. Okay? Being that it represents the image, we can start doing things to it. We have the ability to set additional properties to this thing now that I have a handle on it. Okay? So let's try changing a few things. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to say image. Now that I have a handle on it, image.style.display is equal to none. What do we know the display property, setting it to none, what does that do? Anyone have an idea?
Doesn't it get rid of the image?
Yes, but what does none do? We know that it gets rid of it. Inside of the HTML, what does actually none do? How is none different than opacity 0?
Because it's still there technically when you do like opacity none. It's still there, you just can't see it. But none would mean it's not displayed at all.
Correct. Yeah, so opacity means that the element exists, it has dimensions, it still has the same width and height, you just made it opaque. And so the color from behind it bleeds right through. But now if we do this, here is, where's our container, right? Here's our image. If we run this now, Command R, oh, did I not save it? See a little circle? Didn't save it. It's gone, okay? The image is gone completely from the DOM, completely from here. It doesn't exist anymore. Oh, here it is. Oh, I'm surprised. Oh, you know what? The image itself exists, but giving it the inline style of display none makes it so that it has no presence on the page. Okay? It doesn't actually remove it from the HTML, but this is inline styles, okay? When you were learning CSS, and I'm going to assume that this was the case, right? When you were learning CSS, you learned that when it came time to like working with CSS, you could have done something like the applying CSS of specificity. The highest level of specificity is inline styles, right? The second, inline styles. The second is style tags. And then the third is some sort of style.css file, right? This being the highest level priority. This will override any one of these no matter what specificity they have, okay? Because it's closest to the element. It's like touching the element. It has such close proximity to the element that its influence is so great that these other things cannot override it. So when you manipulate the DOM with JavaScript, you are manipulating it and adding that CSS directly to the element itself, okay? So if we wanted to now, we could also make changes, right? So I'm just gonna get rid of this. I could get it back by doing this. Style.display is equal to block, right? If I got rid of it the first time, this should now get rid of it and then bring it right back, right? Brought it immediately right back because we gave it a display of block. So at one point in time, it had a display of none, and now it has a display of block, okay? Remember how Matt went over set timer? Does anybody remember the set timer the other day when Matt was going over it? We could do something like this. I think it's set time out. Let me see if I can do this. Set time out. Now I'm going to do this. Watch what I'm going to do. I am going to take this. I'm going to put it below it. And I'm going to give it, say, 1 second. Let me see if this works. 1 second. what's going to happen is the image is going to disappear, and then 1 second later it comes back. It's like a little magic trick. Right here. And then it comes back. Now I want you to look at here. Look at the styles. I'm going to make it 2 seconds. I want you to look specifically at these styles. And I'm just going to expand a little bit so that you can see. I want you to see that this is going to change. I'm going to refresh it. Display none, display blah. You saw that? So we're seeing these changes happen right before our eyes as we investigate this. Sometimes you actually see that. I'll go to a page that has a slider, and as the thing is sliding, I will see this change. One of the sites that I do go to see that is this Food Sense site, because these things slide. So watch what happens when I actually go here. You're going to start seeing these things start changing. You see it? You see the purple? See that? That's properties being added and removed or changed. I'm going to probably suggest that they're just being changed. As it cycles through, it's moving things around. It's giving something maybe a different position, a different index, a different opacity, right? These things change. So you can actually see sometimes the JavaScript in action behind the scenes, okay? Let's see what else we got here for some of these properties. We can change a grayscale. So I'm going to go here. I'm just going to comment out the none. So we have this. I'll just take this. I'm going to get rid of the timer. We don't need the timer. I want this just to show, kind of stick with what we had here. So now I'm going to do image.style.filter, which isn't something I really use very often. Gray scale 100%. Let's see what that gets us. Here's our Hawkins. I save the file. I refresh. Now I'm adding a whole grayscale. That's kind of cool, right? The fact that you can give images this black and white feeling, right? I mean, this is part of the visual design process. Somebody might be like, I don't know, I want to do a black and white. And you're like, I don't know, I think we have to like cut the things to do that. And now we don't have to cut the things or cut new images or take new images or send it out to someone. We can actually use CSS and just JavaScript. So maybe you would have a button here, like little buttons that are like normal picture, here's a grayscale picture, here's grayscale maybe at 50%. What would it look like at 50%, right? Not as much, but still, maybe 80%. I'm looking to see where maybe we could see a bigger difference, right? And it's starting to lose and fade. Maybe you fade it. Like you're building some sort of game where things get scary and the picture starts to turn dark and ominous as the game begins, right? That would be pretty cool to do. So you can do that with JavaScript. We can also set the image.style, right? We can set a width equal to whatever we want, 95%. You can see what effect that takes, right? So now it's only 95% of the screen, right? We'd probably want to do something kind of like what Jerica did, margin 0 auto to kind of like move it into the center. If that's something we wanted to do. At any point in time, we can reset properties just like we did none to block. We can say, hey, image.style.filter is equal to nothing. So we can say, hey, I don't want that filter. I want the picture back. Once again, it's going through the changes. It's happening so fast, we can't actually see that these things are being done, okay? So that's us changing some of those settings. Why don't you kind of play around with these, just type these out, just get a feel of them. Get your hands dirty, and then we'll go into the next section of creating elements, okay? Take it to the next level. Let's see what we got. Click on crazy face. And done.
Hey, Joe, I hate to make you repeat something, but I must have missed it. How did you fix that error that you can actually edit the photo? The one that says you can't define null? I must have missed it.
Oh, so that you couldn't define null. That was when inside of the HTML.
Okay.
You see how I have the script tag now at the bottom?
Okay.
It's here. Before it was at the top.
Gotcha.
Being
So
at the top, and now in there, I'm trying to grab an H1, but the H1 is here and it hasn't loaded yet. So you trying to grab something that hasn't loaded means it's not there because JavaScript is editing the DOM. And this DOM element has not been loaded yet, so we can't really do anything with it.
You know what's funny? Now that you say that, I actually feel like I should have remembered that because I feel like when I took my front-end course, that was literally something that has said that needs to be at the bottom.
Yeah.
Totally just jogged.
You're going to see it used different places, and I could load it at the top. I almost never do, but if I wanted to say load JS file in head, and I'm just going to say document. I think it's like document.ready, how to add, not just add it, but to call it. I mean, this is appending it. I forgot what it was. Dynamically loading JavaScript, because I never really loaded up there. Always kind of put it towards the bottom, if I know what it's doing. But there's a way to do it, and I think it's like, I don't know, JavaScript. Let me just see. While you guys are doing that, I'll just see if I can find JavaScript. Load, maybe load JS file, or delay load JS file. Delay load, right? There we go. JavaScript, delay file, load, something like that. Delay script loading, efficient loading, deferred sync, delay loading, external JavaScript. Let me see. Let me just see if this is it. I don't know if it's it or not. They're just doing set timeouts. They're not doing what I thought they were going to be doing. Let me see if this has it. Set timeout. Now they're doing set timeouts and stuff. It's not what I was looking for. There's another way to do it. In jQuery, it's going to be something a little different. It's going to be something like document.ready, and then only when the document has been ready. JavaScript delay ready. Maybe I'm just using documents ready. Hold ready, maybe jQuery. No, this is all jQuery. Yeah. I'll try to find it later. I forgot what that was. It's one of those things, you do it once, you do it twice. You don't really do it that often. And if you examine other sites, like if I even go to W3 Schools, well, we wouldn't be looking inside of their JS files. I'm just seeing if they have some JS files, like here's a footer. I have to go to sources just to see. I went to JavaScript, let me see. This is ASP, I'm never gonna be able to figure that out. Yeah. Sometimes you can. You can look inside of the files, see how they loaded it. All right, how are we feeling here? We got 17 so far. 19, cool. 20, we only have a handful left. Let's do this also. We haven't taken a break yet, right? I feel like everybody wants a break. I want a little break. Get some water. Why don't we take a quick break? It's 12:37. I want to come back at 12:47, and then we'll pick up the rest on creating the DOM elements. All right. All right. Take a break. All right, one more minute. Oh, here we go. Boop. Cool. So we could jump right back in here. Now, we've been playing around with just setting some CSS, right? So really at this point in time, we were, playing with CSS. That's kind of what we're doing. Using the style attribute, right? Or using the style property right here, right? It itself is obviously, because of the dot notation, is an object, right? So image is an object, style is an object, display is actually something that we're doing. So display is a property because we're setting it to a value, okay? So let's say that we now have stuff, right? Well, or we were playing with CSS, and now we want to create elements, okay? Let's just go back to like the to-do list concept. User types in, a new to-do is created. So if we want to create something, we need to first, I'm going to say this, const, in our example, we're going to create egos is equal to document. We're going to create a new image. Document dot create element image, okay? So the difference between these over here, right? This is a kind of a property that's being assigned a value. This is, how would you describe create element? What is that? If you had to give it one name, it is a
method.
Yeah, it's a method. I think I saw Thad trying to say it. It's just my microphone didn't go off. Yeah, it's a method. These are properties now. These are methods. Methods are, as we know, functions associated with a object. Okay, so now we need to append it. I created the element. Now I need to append the element. Okay, it's created. We got to append it, right? Because if I go back here, if I save this, if I refresh this page, nothing's here. I don't see anything because all we did was create something. We did not take it to the next level where we actually appended it. So in order to append it, I'm going to grab the documents object model, right? We're going to grab the thing. I'm going to say, hey, I need to query, and I'm going to use the query selector, and I'm going to grab the container because that's where I want this image to be. And then I'm going to use, just going to move this out just a little bit so we can see the whole thing here. Then I'm going to use the dot append child method. And what am I going to append? Well, I'm going to append egos. Remember when we were talking about the hierarchy of things? Well, this is a child of container, right? We want to append something. So this tells us to use the append child to the container. I'm going to take a look. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to refresh it. And we still don't see anything, right? Okay. Anybody know why we don't see anything?
Because all you did was add a, oh, sorry, you can go.
I was just going to say, like, we didn't give it an image to append.
Correct. Exactly. We didn't give it anything, so it's an image. So here's a question. Is it appended, or do we just not see it? Let's see. So we said query selector container, and I don't see it here at all, right? I truly don't see it, unless I didn't say that. Document, create element image, append child, right? This looks good. I don't see any. I'm going to take a look. There's no errors here, so I don't see anything happening. So I'm just going to refresh this one more time. Go here. Yep, we don't see anything yet. So let's try adding a image to this thing first, right? So I'm going to say egos dot set attribute. Okay, because now we're setting an attribute. Okay, so here I'm just going to put set in attribute. Attribute. Okay, so we know what we're doing. Set attribute. What's the attribute? Well, the attribute is source. What is the source image? Okay, I'm just going to, do we have the image here? Let me just see. We have the image here. Do we have the image? Here we go. Here's the image. I'm just going to copy and paste this image so that I don't have to type it out. Right? Don't type that out, Aaron. Don't type it out. Let's see. Do we have it?
How did you know I was doing that?
I know. Something tells me I know. Ah, there we go. I see the images there, and if we go to the container, here it is. Here's the image. The image has been appended to the container. Now I'm going to go back. I'm going to console log this out because, once again, maybe I was looking for the image in the wrong place. My assumption was that the image should have been there, and the image was there. Even without the image source, the image element was there. I was kind of forcing myself to look where the other image was, but I was incorrect. The image is there, but it's not visible because it didn't have a source. The minute we give it an attribute that has a source, well, then we see it. Then the image comes back, right? And then with this, we can add a style. I mean, the thing is really big. Maybe we want to do egos.style.width, right, is equal to, I don't know, I'm going to set it to 100%. Let's see what happens there. All right, forces the image. Now, why does setting, does anyone know, just this kind of CSS thing, why does setting it to be 100% here make the picture smaller than it is? Anybody have an idea? If I go here and I look at the container, look at the container. Look where the container is, and look where the image is. I'm going to take this out. Here's the image. Here's the container. You can clearly see that the image bleeds outside the container, correct? Any ideas why it would bleed outside the container?
Isn't it because it's larger than the container it's in? So if you set it to 100%, it's 100% of the width of the container?
Correct, exactly. So a lot of the times you're doing this. A lot of the times you're going to be setting the width of an image to be 100% so that it forces itself to use the parent container as its evaluation of what is 100%. Where are my boundaries? I live here, but now I have to force myself within the boundaries of this. Did I save it? I think I stretched it out. That's why it's out here now. We squeeze it, goes back in, right? Remember, we gave this a width of 95%. That's why this isn't taking up all of the width, okay? Just a smaller width. So we know how to set attributes, right? We know how to create elements. We know how to set attributes. What if we wanted to remove that element? Well, we could just say egos.remove.
Hey, Joe.
Yes?
Would you be able to back up and explain again why after you wrote document.querySelector, yes, why did the variable not show up? Why?
Oh, so it did show up. So watch this. I'm going to comment these two out, okay? Now all I have is the creation and the appending, right? Okay, so now I'm going to go back here. I'm going to refresh this page. It's appended, or it was appended, it was just appended before. I could have sworn I saw a blank image tag just there 2 minutes ago.
Wasn't it in the list?
No, it was right below the UL because we're in the container. Once again, I could have sworn I saw it unless this is an instance of like, I don't know, I think, remember Aaron had mentioned like sometimes you need to reload it, sometimes things don't load. Unless I have an error here, line 27. Oh, I think my code is breaking. Oh, and I have the remove. Huh, that's it. Sometimes you got so much code going on, I don't know what's going on. So I'm going to do this. Do you see the image tag, Lauren? Do you see that?
I do, but I am not seeing it on mine.
Okay. I commented all the previous code out too, so that all the code that I wrote to remove it. I have to do this because if I leave the remove there, then if I refresh this thing will disappear right now. Watch. It's gone now inside the container. Remove removes the elements. Now if I get rid of remove, then the image tag comes back. Is that happening for anyone else? Anyone else like can't see the image tag if it's just these two lines of code? I'm just curious. Maybe there's a common theme. Maybe something's happening. Do you want to share your screen, Lauren? We could take a look.
Hey, Joe, real quick, can you just paste that image tag?
Oh, yeah, this one? Sure.
So
I'll paste the whole thing.
Yeah, I don't think my image tag is showing up either. I think.
There we go.
I don't see mine either when I.
Okay, why don't we start? So, Lauren, why don't we do this? Why don't we start with Lauren? She was the first one to kick it all off. I'm going to have you share your screen, Lauren, and let's take a look. Okay. Let's take a look. Image, const, document, create, element, image, document, query, selecting container, append child. Looks good. There goes, sweet. And then you go to your HTML. We don't see it. You know what? I almost see, unless you wrote your HTML where there's a space between the UL and the div, but I'm going to assume that's how you did it. Can you refresh it? Refresh the Hawkins page? You can just do Command R or, yeah, I don't see it either.
I think I know why.
Why is that?
So she's under sources and then index HTML. She's not under elements. Is that why?
Oh, yeah, we're looking at source files. That's it. That's a good call. There you go. Yeah, so when you're looking at sources, when you're looking at the source file, that's the actual HTML file. That's not the DOM. So we're manipulating. I'm just going to share my screen. I'm going to assume, was that the same thing with you, Lindsay? And I think someone else had the same problem.
Yeah.
Okay. So this sources file is the actual file itself. The original file that we cannot edit in JavaScript. JavaScript cannot go into this HTML file and actually inject a line of code in there. It can't go in here and be like, all right, put a space here and then put something in there. It can't do that, but it can manipulate this virtual DOM, right? The virtual DOM is just a virtual representation of it. So it can manipulate the virtual DOM, but not the real DOM. So when you are investigating the HTML, just make sure you're in Elements, and then that way you'll see the dynamic interaction with JavaScript versus sources, which is static. This is what the file was when it loaded. Cool, I'm gonna go back here. I removed it, so I'm gonna undo my code so we could see. So I have the styles, so we see everything comes and it goes. And then the remove just removes the thing itself, okay? It goes away. Working with a collection. So
I have another question.
Sure, yeah. What's up?
So you just copy that in. For some reason, my Atom sees those two backslashes, but after HTTPS or HTTPS, and it's commenting out the whole link.
The thing that so did you copy and paste what I gave you?
Yeah.
Okay, sometimes I think when you when copy and pasting, there might be some issue with like it adding some stuff. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna copy and paste what I sent you and watch. Do you see how these ticks now? See how this is a single quote? This is some weird thing, right? That's like a different kind of quote. Do you see the color coding is off completely?
Yep.
Do you see these? So now I have to go into like source and give it a single. I got to end the single. I got to do it with this, and I have to do it with, that's the only one I didn't have to do it. So that's going to tell me that that's probably what's happening. Yeah, just know when you copy and paste things, sometimes that happens.
That worked, but then now I'm getting a different error in my console.
What's the error say?
Get file / u, and just like I think the whole code path.
This thing isn't working.
Hold on. I wonder if it's that. It added something else. Yeah, I got it.
Got it. Sweet. Everyone else good?
On mine,
Mhm.
the it's like the image didn't append, I guess, in the right place because it's actually showing up above the Stranger Things photo.
So, and you grabbed container here?
Yes.
And you did append child?
Yes.
Interesting. All right, so let's take a quick look. I'll stop sharing.
Okay.
All right.
That's what it ends up. Let me refresh. Yeah, that's what it ends up looking like.
So I see, welcome. We see London, and then it's appending. Okay, so body, H1 div container, image, and then it is putting it above. Oh, so we're in Elements, and I don't. Where's the second image? I mean, I see it there.
I think I know what's going on. So if you look at her container, the container isn't wrapping everything from the beginning to the closing body.
Yes, that's true. Expand your container. Expand the container in here.
Wait, what?
Look at that little arrow to the left. There you go. Drop that down. There you go. So you see how your container doesn't contain the image and the featuring? So you must have closed it too soon. I'm going to show.
So this div, I need to move that?
Yeah, you need to move that below the UL. So both the image, the H2, and the UL, all three of those are children of the container.
Oh.
There you go. Right there. That'll do it. Now if you refresh.
Just don't forget to remove that other closing div tag up at the top.
Oh yeah, you have the other div. He's right. On line 14, get rid of that closing one. Yeah. Save it and then do it.
Yay!
There you go. Sweet,
Perfect.
right? It's awesome when it works. It is awesome. Trust me, these are the things that these are gonna drive you crazy. Having to like troubleshoot these little small things that are just things that you're overlooking. In all honesty, tiny things that get overlooked. Cool. So I'm going to move on to this collection here, working with a collection. So if we're grabbing more than one thing, right? So if we had more than one thing, that thing has to be as part of a collection, right? The thing that we understand as collection, what's the one data type we use to collect things?
Arrays.
Arrays, right? And objects are used to do what? I mean, they collect things, but objects are more so for what? Why would I use an object to collect things versus an array? It's a different type
You
of
could set them, get them, and set them.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, think about this. If I had an array of us, all of us, we would be unique what inside the array? I would be represented as what inside of the array? What data type would I be?
An index?
Well, that would be my position. But say I'm at position 0 and you pull me back. What data type am I? What do you think would be the best data type to use to describe all that is this?
An object?
Bingo, an object, right? So when I say containers, arrays are the most generic type of containers. They're boxes that you just throw things in. Most of the time, the box contains related things. At other times, they're just things that you throw together. Objects are more for like describing something. So it is a container, but it's a container for properties and values of things, right? So in essence, we are all kind of objects, and we have properties that describe us. So that object is the container to hold the properties and values that describe each one of us. And the array is the thing that holds all of the objects. Now, I'm saying this because we're going to work with a collection, right? If I work with a collection, then the question is like, what is that? What is it going to look like? So I'm going to run document.query selector, right? And I'm going to grab all the LIs, right? If I grab all the LIs, I'm going to actually do this. I am going to say let LIs equal to. Now I'm doing LIS because my assumption is that I'm going to be grabbing more than one LI. Does that make sense? Like what this looks like it should be doing? It's not, but let's take a look. Console log LIS, right? I'm going to go here. I'm going to refresh Hawkins. I'm going to go to the console. And look, I only have the first LI. And then you're like, man, the first LI, I thought we were going to grab a bunch of LIs, right? Well, query selector, there's another extension to query selector. So query selector selects one thing, okay? When you use query selector, so I'm going to get rid of the LIS, and I'm just going to put LI, and I'm just going to say query selector selects one thing. If you ask for an LI, it'll grab the first LI that it finds, and then it stops. It does not query anymore. If, I'm going to get rid of this, if we did let LIS equal document.query selector all, now if we do this, we should see all of the LIs. I've grabbed them all. Now, does it look like an array? I mean, the answer is going to be yes. It looks like an array, right? You remember when we were doing classes and I console logged one of the classes? Like if I console logged hero, hero would have been kind of console logged like this. So let's just pretend I was console logging hero. It would have been this in the console. And then you would have had an object with a name, you know, Joe, something like that, right? What did this represent when I did the console log?
An object.
Right, it was an object. It was because we instantiated an instance of a new class. So this was kind of the class name of the thing, right? Hero was the parent class, and this was the values that were instantiated or created as part of that class. Do you see where it says node list here? Same concept. This node list is something that is between an array and something else. Looks like an array. We can, if we wanted, we could grab the element at the first position of that thing, but it's not a true array. It lacks certain things. I think we could even, you know, grab the length of it if we want. Let me see, if I grab the length, I get 5. But it's lacking some other properties and methods because it's not a true array, okay? But for the sake of what we would need to do with it, using for loops, the looping constructs that we've learned so far, we could leverage the positions of these things quite easily to do what we need, okay? And so just based on that, right, I grabbed it. I could say, hey, LIS, I want to grab the, you know, I want to grab the first thing there. I want to give its inner text is equal to, you know, demo dog hangout, right? I want to change a property of this thing. And then we could do, boop. Let me see, where'd it go? Demo dog hangout, right? So we could do things. We could even loop over this array if we truly wanted to, right? I could create a for loop and say let I is equal to 0, while I is less than lis.length, right? I plus equals 1. And then I could just, you know, for the sake of argument, I could just console log lis bracket I, right? I being the current position, right? We're starting at 0. The next time this will be 1, 2, 3. And if we did this, and we console logged, look at this. I see each element, right? I could grab each element. I could use some conditional logic to remove them. I wonder if I just did this. If I remove, can I remove them all? They're all gone now, right? Everyone is gone. They all disappeared because I grabbed each one and I removed each one. Okay?
So it's not a true array, but because you used query selector all, it temporarily stores it as an array that you can manipulate the same way you would a real array?
Yes, this creates a node, I'm going to say your node list. And it has array-like properties. We would have to do something like this. Convert node, watch this, node list to array. Did you see this? Like, it's almost the first question everyone asks. Anyone who starts doing this is like, man, I got an array and I want to do array things to it. And we're like, but it's not an array. And so I would query, hey, how do I turn this thing into, and I've always gone to this guy, David Walsh's blog. I go to this guy all the time when I'm looking at like doing research. I almost wind up on his blog. And he's got, this particular blog has ways to convert this node list into a true array. And he's using some old school ways of doing it. He's like creating an empty array. He's slicing everything out. He's calling the element and it's like cycling through and sending it back. Or he's doing something like this. Like, we're not going to get into this once again, because we're going to be focused on really using jQuery later on. And we don't need this thing to be an array for the sake of what we need, because we can use a for loop to do it, okay? So we don't need to do this. But if we wanted to, I could grab this and I could turn it into a true array. So I could say like lis array is equal to, and then if we did lis, query selector lis, and I console log this now, we should see, oh, here, that it's an array now. See, this was a node list. This is an array. Okay. Now, once again, looking at it in the console, you can see the naming convention, right? This says node list. This doesn't say anything, and that insinuates that it is an array, right? And so arrays, and we haven't gotten to this yet, but arrays have looping methods. Up to this point, you've been using for loops, right? And you're comfortable with for loops now? You could probably write a for loop in your sleep, right? Arrays have looping methods also. That is the next thing that we would learn to use on arrays. I almost never use for loops at this point in time. If something is an array, I opt to use array looping constructs in order to work with the loop. I don't do that anymore. Once again, we haven't gotten to it. We're giving you the stuff that you need to know to figure out problems, because for loops are key to figuring out problems. I use for loops all the time, not necessarily on arrays. So we did that, and we removed stuff here. So I was like, hey, remove the third element, right? So I could inside of this for loop have done some if conditional logic, like if, if I is equal, to 3, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, that would be the last element. Then we could remove the element, right? If it's equal to 3, then I wouldn't console log it now. Then I would do lis, the last element, dot remove, right? Once again, you can just use conditional logic to find it and do something with it. I'm just going to, what's our third element? The 0, 1, 2, 3, Melve General Store. Let's just see if this works now. And Melve General Store is gone. It's not there anymore. So just know that when you grab these elements, some of the time what you're going to need to do is filter them out, right? If I was like, which one's the thing I'm looking for, where I could do this and say, if inner HTML is equal to this, do something with it, right? Highlight it, get rid of it. Different kinds of things that you can do to it, okay? So there's a few things we can do. When it comes to the DOM, I'm pushing through. We're not gonna hit the lab. We might break just maybe 10 minutes early for lunch, just because there's no point in giving the lab now. We'll do the lab later. So I'm just gonna kind of just run through the rest of the appendix and maybe answer any of your questions. The common JavaScript commands that we will work with are gonna be things like searching, retrieving elements on the page, creating elements for sure. A lot of the times you're creating things. Now, at this point in time, you may think like, oh, I have everything in the HTML file, right? Well, what if these LI, those pieces of data, right? Those LIs, what if they were given to us as an array in JavaScript? Like somebody's like, no, we're not gonna create those elements in the HTML, like in the file itself. You're gonna create them later on. When the user's like, show me all of the sites to see, and they click the button, then you're going to like, oh, I'm gonna create those elements, and when they close it, I'm gonna remove those elements, right? So I'm dynamically adding them, dynamically removing them, just like that, right? So sometimes the content that you see on the screen isn't gonna match with what's in the HTML file because things are being dynamically created based on whatever the decisions were made, okay? So I'm not going to, you know when you did the mock-up this morning, right? I mean, it was easy. You have those three things, right? Those three categories. When you go to a category, do you think they're hard coding every product on the page, right? No one thinks that, right? And that's because they're pulling that data from the database. It's given back to them as an array. They take this array, they loop over it, and they dynamically create those elements on the fly, okay? So it's really important to know that creating elements is a key thing that happens, okay? You can't get away from doing this. Either JavaScript, jQuery, React, you're creating elements. Editing elements also, that's how you're interacting. Traversing the DOM, going up and going down, okay? Now, there's other type of methods that we can use. Things like get element by ID, you're gonna see that a lot. Get elements by class name, get elements by name. These two things themselves return an HTML list. It even gets like crazier. It's like, so I have these that grab this, right? Watch this if I take this and I'm gonna get rid of this. I'm gonna say LIS by name. I'm just gonna change this a little bit just so that you can say by name. Now I'm gonna, instead of doing query selector, which is what I would prefer to do, I'm gonna say get elements document dot get elements by name. And then I'm going to console log LIs by name. Let's see what we get here. Oh, it gave us a no list. Oh, this did give us a no list. Unless it should have gotten these things. Get elements by name. So I'm just going to do this, just making sure that I got the elements. This is LIS by name. Yeah, so this actually gets an empty no list. I'm surprised that it's doing that unless I did something with removing. It should have gotten all the LIs. By tag, maybe it's by tag name. There's also by tag name too. Let me see if this works. Yeah, it's by tag name. Do you see now what this thing is? It's an HTML collection. The other one was a node list. Like, I'm just trying to show you that these things are different. Because they are different, if you're ever like challenged with being forced to use JavaScript, to like grab things and manipulate them, just know the fact that they're different. There may be some nuances between these two that you get so used to using this, and then you go to this, and you're like, shit, I'm so used to using this other thing, and it had these methods. Query Selector is the newer one. These are the kind of older ones, but they work just as well. Query Selector's the newer iteration, right? We did create elements, and then here just editing. Things like append child, remove child, inner text, set attribute. We did a few of these, inner HTML, right? We could get the ID of the thing, its class list, all of the classes associated with it, and then transverse, right? On an interview, you might be asked, what is a node? Right? They may actually show you a node or like have you type out something to grab all the elements. That's, to me, somebody graduated SEI and I was interviewing them. I'd be like, hey, do me a favor, grab all of the LIs, loop over them, and remove the third one. Can you do that? And then ask them, why'd you use Query Selector all and not by tag name? Like I would ask these questions. Even if they didn't have the answer, I'm just trying to trip them up. You know, I want them to either own up to the fact that they don't know or they don't use tag name, and that's cool. But I want them to understand that they are different. And how would they respond to something where they don't really know the answer off the top of their head? So some of these questions are meant to kind of trip you up. But this node here is just a generic name for the type of thing. Anything in this. If I go back to the hierarchy here that we saw earlier, all of these are nodes. Everything is a node. These nodes have things, they have properties. They have methods that we can work upon them, but each one of these is a node, okay? We can grab any node that we want. So in the end, a node is just that, okay? Cool. Yeah, that was a lot. Lots of material.
Question. So
Sure, yeah, I want some questions now too. So yeah, please, go and
so
kick it off.
just to be clear, whatever you change on the DOM does not change anything in your files, like your
Correct.
HTML or your JS. Like you have to go in and manually do that if you want to save it as a hard copy.
Yes.
Okay.
You are correct. Yeah, all of this is done within this virtual representation, right? So if I was to annotate one more time, right? Say I had, I'm going to do, when I annotate, can I do the whiteboard? Do I have the whiteboard here? There is no whiteboard. I think Zoom has the whiteboard. Is there a whiteboard? I was working with a whiteboard earlier, but I think because I'm sharing the screen, I can't do it. But just say we have our files, right? And so these are our files, right? These files get loaded into some sort of, virtual representation. And this virtual representation is the DOM. It is in here that we can like add elements, we can remove elements, we can change styles of elements, but this is a one-way direction. We can't go back here. This doesn't work. We can never go back to the actual index file or, the CSS file. All that stuff gets loaded into the DOM, but the DOM is where we work our magic. This is where we can add things, we can remove things, we can do .style and change things. This is the place that we do it. These files are very safe. Nothing will ever happen to these. These are like in a little protective zone. They just give their content, but we can never go back and change them unless we do it on our side. Unless I open up Atom, add something, commit it, push it up to the application refreshes itself, then we have new content.
So is that like in the sense of, because like if this was like, let's say this is a site you're working on with a group and someone's already committed their work, pushed it up, so now you're trying to edit it as like a secondary? Is that what you're saying? So like the HTML and CSS is already done, pushed up, you can't mess with it.
Sure, exactly. Exactly. You know what it's like too? I don't know. I think I might have shown this to you guys, and this is just under. Oh, I gotta stop the annotations. This is under this kind of context. Let me get rid of. Hold on a second. I'm just gonna get rid of that line because that's gonna drive me crazy. Clear. Anyone ever see? Oh, Jesus Christ! Come on, annotations. Zen Garden. CSS Zen Garden. Has this been shown to you at all? Yes? Okay. I think so, right? Did Jerica show it? Matt show it? Somebody showed it? Did I show it? I don't know. This thing right here, the HTML can't be touched. You're not allowed to touch the HTML, but what you can do with CSS is freaking amazing. So you're not allowed to touch or add or manipulate the HTML, only the CSS. And the idea is for you to take the content and change it to your vision, okay? And so in similar practices, we're talking about like the JavaScript, right? The HTML and the CSS loads, and the JavaScript allows us to then manipulate everything that we see on the page, add elements, remove elements, change styles on the fly. But this is just one sample. Like, I really think this is a cool site because so many people go here and create something. It's just beautiful, you know? What are the questions?
Everything, yeah, so everything like in the DOM automatically saves. Like
everything that's in this DOM here, right?
Mhm.
Everything that we edited will not be there if I refresh the page. Refreshing the page will reload this index file, the CSS, and the app.js file, and we will have lost any dynamic changes that occurred via the user interaction with the page. Those things that were loaded into the DOM, things that were loaded here would be gone if we did that. So if I went back here, what did I remove something? I did the egos.remove, right? I'm gonna remove that. I'm gonna refresh this. Right, do we have our egos pictures? Our ego picture is there, right? It lives in the DOM now. It does not live in the HTML. It's in the DOM HTML portion, but not the HTML file, right? If I dynamically added that and I refresh the page, then this thing would not be there. It's there now because we're forcing it to be there every time we load the app.js file. But if we added it there temporarily and it wasn't done via this file, then it wouldn't be there when the page is refreshed. That make sense, Lindsay?
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. How's everyone else feeling?
Is there a reason why you're not using semicolons?
Yeah, I'm sloppy.
It's just stressing me out. I just wanted to make sure. We should be in the practice of using semicolons.
I would say, there's debate between semicolons and not semicolons. In all honesty, if you search the web, there's tools out there that will auto-populate the semicolons and put them there for you. I'm so used to using CodePens these days when I'm like teaching that I just click on, fix everything and it just adds all the semicolons. So I'm in the habit of not adding them. But I know I saw Matt when he was teaching the other day, and he was like, yeah, you could add them, you don't have to add them. It's like something you could run some sort of debate, like semicolons versus no semicolons, right? Semicolons versus no colons.
I'm just going to state it and align it. I'm team semicolons, guys.
Yeah.
Semicolons.
Semicolons in JavaScript. Yeah, do you recommend using semicolons in every statement? Now we're asking Stack Overflow. In many situations, JavaScript parsers will insert semicolons for you if you leave them out. My question is, do you leave them out? All right. So there. I don't know. Is this the right answer? That doesn't maybe incomplete. I'm looking for like, yes, you should use semicolons in every statement. Okay. So yes, best practice is to use them. Don't blame me for not using them. Because when I'm working with React uses Babel, which is a transpiler, and it will take all the code and add and fix everything. So I almost never focus in on that stuff now. But it is good practice to do it. And if you're going to post anything on Stack Overflow, you better have semicolons, or they will rip into you. Cool. No more questions. We can break for lunch. And when we come back from lunch, get you set up for the labs. Cool? Awesome. So let's come back at 1:30. Lunch.
Hey Joe, I have a lint question.
Sure.
Not to hold everybody up if people
Okay.
want to go to lunch. What I was kind of just searching that. Is there a specific? I'm seeing like a bunch of different types, like TS lint, ES lint.
Yes. Those linters, ES lint is a linter we were using on the New York campus. And so when we installed ES lint, it had a tool that was like, hey, fix up all the errors. Like if things need to be tabbed over, tab them over. If they need a semicolon, add the semicolon. So as a developer, if it makes it easier for you to write code, leaving out the semicolons, knowing that these linter tools are going to fix it for you, then that's what you're going to opt to do, right? You're going to be just as, that's what these tools are for. They're for that.
I guess, do you know if there's a meaningful difference between these different prefixes for them? Like that's the part I wasn't sure. I guess if you said ESLint is the one you guys used, I would just try to use that one. But I wasn't sure what the difference is between them.
Well, the linters themselves are going to achieve the same thing. Just one might have more bells and whistles than the other. It's almost like saying this. If somebody was like new to development, they're like, hey, should I use Sublime or Atom? What would I tell them at this point in time? The fact that I'm using Atom, I actually really like Atom. Sublime is more a dumbed down version. There's a lot more manual stuff you got to do to get Sublime all configured. Atom seems a bit more like, elevated and what I can do with it. So at this point in time, if somebody said I want to use something, I would say Atom. But a lot of the instructors also use VS Code, which is a cracked out editor version. Some of them might say use that, and I might say, hey, that's just too much for you. You're new, and that's going to throw so much at you, you're going to get lost. So it all depends. But ESLint is a really solid linter. And that's pretty much the only one that I really have familiarity with because we've used that in New York for such a long time.
Cool. Are we doing React later in the course? Is that what we're doing? Because I was just looking up reviews and it said ESLint is good for that. So that sounds like
you're
good
definitely going to learn React.
Cool.
React is something like I couldn't push hard enough for everyone to learn. Like just one of those things. It's the new way of building out front-end applications. The way it's structured, what it's trying to achieve is a new kind of design process. So if it's not React, then it'll be something like Vue. Vue's trying to achieve the same thing that React is doing. And if two technologies are like implementing design in this new way, and they're so popular, then that gives you some indication of where application development is going.
Cool. Makes sense. Thanks.
Sweet. All right. Stop sharing.